In unit number 3, you are going to study how to draw conclusions and how to report research. In order to understand better this section, you are going to review some general guidelines. Once you have conducted the research study and analyzed the data gathered, you have to draw conclusions. Those conclusions need to be closely related to the research topic, the research questions, and of course based on the findings and data analysis. A well-written conclusion provides you with the opportunity to demonstrate your overall understanding of the research problem and express in a very clear way to the reader and to the rest of the audience. It is important to state the conclusions in a clear, simple way by using appropriate language. Do not just repeat the results or the discussion. Indicate opportunities for future research as long as you haven't already done so in the discussion section. This last part is very important because it will provide readers or researchers the opportunity to know what kind of topics were not explored in your study, so they can design studies to try to find more information in depth and analyze. In this section, you are going to work with the research report, the structure of your thesis, and you have to understand that a research report is a piece of academic writing that requires a more abstract, critical, and thoughtful level of inquiry than you might be used to. Writing a research report involves a systematic journey that starts with a review of literature, the conduction of the research, the analysis and interpretation of the data collected, the drawing of conclusions, and finally the writing of report. Regarding the structure and organization of the research report or the thesis, you have to be very clear and keep in mind that each institution may have a specific format in order to provide students. In this case, the university has set a format that is presented in this chart and explained in the virtual guide for you to prepare the research report or your thesis. It includes the structure of the preliminary pages and of course the major components of the research report, which include the abstract, the translation of the abstract, the introduction, the body, which is going to comprise 3 chapters. In chapter number 1, you are going to include the literature review. Chapter number 2, method, in which you detailed all the sample characteristics, the instruments, the procedures that you applied in order to gather information and to analyze the data. All those details are very important in order to provide readers a very clear idea of the process you followed in order to demonstrate the research questions or hypotheses. Chapter number 3 will include information about the results and discussion, in which you are going to describe, analyze, and interpret the results. And finally, the conclusion section, recommendations, references, and appendix. Remember that the research report must reflect a unique and appropriate interpretation of evidence to explain or demonstrate the questions that were set in the research proposal. Keep in mind those keywords and the variables that you included in the research proposal, because you are answering and providing evidence for those questions and the topic that you have in the research proposal. Some of the recommendations for you to follow in order to succeed in this part is that you have to read and research a lot, because that is the way to learn how other experienced writers report research and how you can organize yours. It is important to organize the time so you can have enough time to write your thesis, because it really takes time. You have to use academic vocabulary. It is important to cite and reference using AP8 format. We are using the 6th edition. You have to follow the guidelines stated for the structure and organization of the thesis in the virtual guide and the ones that will be provided throughout the course. Select reliable resources. And finally, you have to write, but be sure that you proofread and edit the thesis. If you have some time, leave the thesis for some days and then take it again to read and try to see if the message you have there is clear, if the ideas that you want to express actually answer the purpose of your research. I know that researching is very hard. It is not an easy activity. However, you are developing these skills little by little. Research is what I'm doing when I don't know what I am doing. That is a very true phrase, but I'm sure that you are going to be able to work in a very good way and achieve your goal. Just go ahead.